Hello. Today I have an HP Pavilion TPN Q175, also known as a 15-AW065SA. It has lines running down the LCD, but only sometimes. So down the right-hand edge, about an inch in, there's a line that appears. There's no visible crack in the LCD, although I can see some sort of damage here. I'm not sure what it is. It might just be a stain. But the LCD changes when you move the hinge. So the owner suspects that the problem lies with the cable, wherever the cable comes through around the hinge, and I'm just not sure. So I could either take apart the bezel and try to swap with another LCD panel that I have here that I'm not sure is even going to work, or I could take the bottom off of here and check the cable connection from inside the computer. I think I'm going to start with the bottom, which might actually mean taking off this top plate, but it comes out from the bottom. So here we go. There may be screws under here. There we go. So there's the battery connector. This looks like the video connector here. It'll come up around and go through the hinge into the display. I don't see anything obvious there. I think what I'm going to do is turn it on and look at the display as I touch the connector. You need to be very careful that the hinge is actually, that the hinges are moving in sync when I open it like this. The damage to the display was somewhere on this side. There, you can see the stripes going up and down. So I'm just going to touch just the connector here and see if there's anything moving this cable affects that at all. Okay, so we've got Windows Explorer open. We can see the damage to the display. So it changes when I articulate the hinge. And this hinge is actually feeling a bit loose on this side. I'm going to take the battery out and look at the hinge. Okay, so now I can see the display and I can see the display cable clearly, which is running down along the edge here. If I touch this and move it, it seems like it might be okay. I believe this computer needs a new LCD panel. I mean, I currently don't see the issue happening. I'm tampering with the display cable. Now I'm going to put this back together. one of the clips popped. I can see that there's double-sided tape. So it's never going to feel great popping this out. So there I got it to go, and now it's just a question of coaxing the rest of them without being too forceful. Oh, it's right on the glass as well, the LCD panel. I don't think this is factory. I think maybe somebody's had this off in the past. Okay. This LCD panel has been taken off before, and when it was put back on, whoever did the work used double-sided tape. They put double-sided tape around the inside edge of the bezel, including on the bottom, so that the bezel then stuck to the bottom of the LCD panel. This strip, it's hard to see in the lighting, there's no contrast, but so this is the glass of the panel, and below that there's this plastic strip. When you buy a new panel, it says, there's usually a sticker that says "Do not touch" on this area, because there's this very delicate circuitry inside there, and touching that area, pressing on that area, can break circuitry. In this case, the double-sided tape has been stuck directly to that, and so taking the bezel off required pulling at that tape. Not happy about that. I can see where the LCD wire comes through the display cable, essentially. The gold connector's coming down from the LCD panel, so it's connected behind. So what I'm going to do is lay down a pad on the laptop, take out the 4 screws that are holding the LCD panel, and lay it forward on top of the computer. Might turn it on in this state and see. The display. I think the problem is the display itself. There's damage right here. There's damage right here. Yeah, it's this way. So the customers decided not to go ahead with this at this time, with Christmas coming. So I've snapped the bezel back on across the top, and I'm going across the bottom here to try to get that to pop back into place gently. I'm happy with that. And I pop the CD drive back in, and now I'll just put these screws back in, and should be good to go. This computer is back. The customer decided that they did want to go ahead with replacing the LCD panel. So I'm just going to turn it on again, make sure that that's all it needs. He also mentioned the touchpad is intermittent, that it doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it stops working. Sometimes when it stops working, it also takes out the external mouse that he uses. I've had the back panel off of this and looked, and in order to access this touchpad, you have to remove the system board. You have to take the motherboard all the way out of the laptop, and I'm not keen to do that if it can be avoided. I think I can see that there's a bit of flex. I don't know if you can see the other keys moving when I push on this, but the whole thing is flexing up and down. So I don't know if that's part of the problem or not. But I'm just booting it up now. I want to look at the issue with the LCD panel before I go any further. Oh yeah, it's actually gotten worse since the last time I saw this. So it definitely needs to be replaced. So I'm just going to shut it down and start that process. I've got that new LCD panel and I'm ready to go. So just there, the little bit of work that I was just doing to shut down the computer, the touchpad was working just fine. I'll do one thing at a time. I'll replace the LCD and then I'll spend some time using this laptop to try to figure out the touchpad. So here we go. Someone used double-sided tape around the edge of this LCD panel. I'm not sure why. I've not seen that from the factory, and in this case, that double-sided tape is actually pulled at this protective layer on the LCD panel, which might actually be what's caused it to fail. I can see there's a pattern, like a grid pattern around the bezel, the inside of the bezel, and that's where the tape has been stuck. I'm just not sure that that's supposed to be there. I've not seen that from the factory before on this type of computer, but I haven't worked on this exact model before either. So I'm going to remove that double-sided tape because I don't think it belongs there. I'll reassemble it without the tape, and then if I have issues with the bezel not staying on, I'll reconsider. But I really want to avoid putting double-sided tape around the panel because, as you can see, they use it's basically tape. This I mean, it's not tape, but it's like it's a plastic coating that's glued onto the LCD, and this double-sided tape has just ripped it off, and I think that's potentially going to cause problems. Windows has started and I can see the desktop. And as I articulate the hinge, I don't see any issue with the image on the screen. So I'm just going to shut down and put the bezel back on. Oh no! I forgot to take the protective plastic shield up. It's alright, it's not the end of the world here. Okay, so now I'm just going to use this computer for a while using the touchpad to try to ascertain if there's anything wrong with the touchpad. I've had the bottom of the computer off. I tightened everything up. It's possible that there is something wrong and I just haven't found it yet, but I'm going to connect it to my internet connection, run some Windows updates, use the touchpad and see what I can come up with. But for now, this LCD replacement has been very straightforward and is done. So thanks for watching.